Good morning. My name is Caleb Chepsick, and I'm a staff member with Canadian Students for Sensible Drug Policy. Canadian Students for Sensible Drug Policy, also known as CSSDP, is the only national student and youth drug policy reform organization in Canada. We have chapters across the country who work on substance use issues facing their peer groups and their communities. Canadian drug policy is promoted as a way to protect young people by our politicians. However, CSSDP emerged from a desire by young Canadians to say "not in our name" to these drug policies that have shown time and time again that they do not protect us. In 2007, the Conservative government introduced the National Anti-Drug Strategy, a policy rich in the types of ideas that have been failing young people and their communities across North America and around the world. The government removed alcohol, tobacco, and pharmaceutical drugs from the focus of Canadian drug policy. Also, despite the growing acknowledgement and expansion of harm reduction programs around the world, the National Anti-Drug Strategy policy removed harm reduction as a pillar of Canadian drug policy. Instead, the government insisted that prevention is the only form of harm reduction they were interested in. The National Anti-Drug Strategy represents a fundamental misunderstanding of the realities of drug use and abuse in Canada. The Canadian government continues to underfund treatment, education, and harm reduction strategies in favor of funding the criminal enforcement of our drug policies. This is despite mounting evidence showing the economic and social benefits of a public health approach towards drugs. This misunderstanding of reality persists in the youth drug education program under the National Anti-Drug Strategy. In December 2009, the government unveiled Drugs Not For Me, a youth drug education campaign. At the campaign's official release, the Federal Minister of Health insisted that this strategy was somehow different from previous drug education programs designed for youth. We are here to say that the government's strategy is no different from the failed Just Say No programs of the past, that this program recycles several of the same tired tactics which have failed to work in the past. The government's drug education strategy fails in several key ways. The government has manipulated and distorted the meaning of the word drug. This is dishonest. By excluding substances such as alcohol, caffeine, tobacco, and pharmaceuticals, the government is misleading young people. This dishonesty leads to mistrust. If youth do not trust the information, then you better believe they aren't going to follow it. This is tied into another way the government's approach to drug education fails young people. A key element of drug education for young people is reinforcement of the messages. Successful interventions are done throughout adolescence. A key failing of conventional drug education is that it tries to reinforce false information. Young people see examples of people using substances, legal or illegal, in responsible ways. Yet the government's Not For Me campaign puts forth that the use of all illegal substances is evil, and that the use of all legal substances is not worth discussing. This is irresponsible. Young Canadians deserve better than that from our government. Another failing of the government's current approach to youth drug education is that it fails to acknowledge that young people will use drugs, legal or illegal. We cannot wish away the fact that some young people will use drugs. The mature approach would be to acknowledge this reality, and provide young people all the information available to keep them safe. Instead, the approach the government has taken, like the failed strategies it is copying, will alienate youth who are thinking of or already are using drugs. These are the young people who need knowledge and strategies on how to make safe, responsible choices for themselves. Prevention has to have a key role in youth drug education, but we have to be clear on what prevention means. Prevention cannot consist of only abstinence-based messages. To be effective, we must talk about preventing problematic substance use. This includes discussing the fact that the only way to avoid the risk of drugs is to not using them at all. This also includes discussing the benefits of delaying drug use, crucial information to convey to youth thinking of using drugs. And importantly, for young people already using drugs, successful prevention strategies must teach the critical skills in order to recognize the signs of problematic use and the value of moderation and responsible use. The government's Not For Me website and materials simplify prevention, denying young people honest facts about drug use and abuse. Now I will turn it over to Tamara Kalnins, Vice Chair of the Canadian Students for Sensible Drug Policy Board of Directors and a key contributor to this project.